Joining us now is Adnan Syed's attorney. Her name is Erica Suter. Erica, good morning to you. Listen, even just hearing the music from the podcast, that ding, 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 brought me all back to this case because I followed it from the very beginning, listening to the podcast serial, and I kept going back and forth, back and forth. And the more I listened to it, the more I was convinced that an injustice had been done here. So I don't want to say, how is he feeling? I'm sure he's over the moon, but I want to know the moment that he got the news yesterday, what that was like for you and his team.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. It was a wonderful moment. I was able to FaceTime with him and tell him what happened, and he was just incredibly grateful, incredibly happy. I think he was standing up, and he said he needed to sit down, to process the information. He always comes from a place of gratitude, and he's just thankful to all the people who have supported him.
He does come from a place of gratitude, and at one point, correct me, help me remember this, wasn't he at one point offered a plea deal and he refused it?
He was back in 2018 when his case was pending before the Court of Appeals. He had already won a new trial twice, and he was offered a plea deal, but he would have had to admit this crime. He would have had to plead guilty and say that he was guilty of this, and he wasn't willing to do that.
Now, their DNA testing, was it not available back then? Is that what has led to the change today? Why we're at this place?
Well, there's a number of factors, and sort of the lead factor in vacating this conviction was that there was evidence that someone else made a threat against the victim that wasn't turned over. And under the law, that sort of information has to be shared with the defense so that you have a fair opportunity to defend yourself. So that's really sort of what's at the heart of this. But there's also DNA testing. There's testing that's been done in 2018, and the additional testing that was done more recently. And again and again and again of this testing, none of it connects to Adnan. And the most recent testing, although there was DNA from other people, actually excluded him.
And what do you say to people? I'm thinking about Heyman Lee's family because, listen, they lost a beloved daughter here, so they are still very much in pain. That people that say, listen, justice has not been served, who still may doubt whether Adnan is innocent.
To the family of Heyman Lee, Adnan and I continue to express our deepest sympathy. This was somebody that was Adnan's friend. This was somebody that he cared about. And it's never been lost on Adnan, the suffering of her family. And we all have to understand that their entire world has been upended. They've believed this one thing for all of this time, and now their world has shifted. And that's one of the major problems with wrongful convictions, is sort of that ripple effect that impacts the victim's family, that impacts the public, that impacts the accused's family. It has really wide-reaching effects.
I know. I keep thinking about that family today, but I'm also thinking about finally justice has been served for Adnan. And can you tell us a little bit about him? Like, what were his plans before he was accused of this crime? He's 17 years old. He seemed to be a very popular kid in school. What were his plans, his dreams?
He was 17 years old. He was a sweet kid. He was accepted into college. He planned on majoring pre-med. He planned on becoming a doctor. So he's, right in sort of the middle of his life at the very beginning, where we're all figuring out, who we're going to be, what kind of adult we're going to turn out. And, he was snatched from his family and incarcerated for these past 23 years.
Yeah, and you can't get those 23 years back. What are his plans now? No. Does he even know? So much has changed in the world.
Well, of course, he wants to continue his education. It's very important to him. He had the benefit of actually being able to begin a Georgetown education while he was incarcerated through the Georgetown Scholars Program, and it's very important to him that he finishes his Georgetown degree. He also has dreams of going to law school.
All right, he has a lot of people cheering him on. Erica Suter, we thank you for your time today. Really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.